switching gears up a little bit, is this okay? So you, from what I knew of you, I knew that you were Gertner, you did private client trainings, and you also did like coaching programs as well, or group coaching programs.
Mm-hmm.
Was this shift in your understanding and just transcending more to like your mental health and just like owning your shit, was that the okay, let me backtrack a little bit with this question. So I feel that when people like, either if they have a brand or just in personal life, they sometimes don't want to leave certain things behind because it's like, well, what's on the other side if I like do this new thing or if I start this new thing? And I felt like I honestly thought Gertner's going to be doing Danielle, sorry, because we used to call you Gertner. So Danielle's going to be doing like Gertner grind. That's like her identity. She doesn't seem like she's going to be leaving Gainesville. Like she has her like, you had your, I don't want to say fan base, but you had your clientele. You already were established. Like you were established. That's what I'm trying to say. You were established there. And for me, you moving to Austin, I'm so happy for you. But it was just like Austin, like what? But what I'm trying to get to is what led you to this move and just saying like this part of my chapter is done with. Gertner Grind will always be a part of my like a part of my brand and how I got to where I am today. But what led you to that like transition? Because I feel like it has to do with this mental health work that you've done. But correct me and please share that story and journey.
No, you're right. I mean, the journey home to myself had everything to do with it. Again, just kind of recognizing like the reason I stayed in Gainesville, the reason I was so tied to this identity as the grind queen, was this external validation and this level of comfort. I was super fucking comfortable. I had, like you said, my fan base. I was really well known in my city. I had a great relationship for 7 years. I had all these friends and I was comfortable. And the more I called myself out on my own shit, the more I realized I was not in alignment with what my heart really wanted. And that was a really, really, really hard pill to swallow. And I will tell you, I knew I wanted to leave Gainesville a year and a half before I moved. And it took me a year and a half to work through my shit and my fears and all of these stories I kept telling myself of, you're not going to find, like even with my relationship, which again, like, who I was dating for so long, that I was never going to find a love like that again. But my heart told me that I was done with that relationship and that I wasn't going to make it in a city like Austin. I really had to call myself out on all of that, on the fears, because I was living with my fear brain in the driver's seat. My heart, which I had no idea how to recognize, was like the quiet, shy kid in the third row of the minivan, like playing with herself, like not talking to anybody. And I had to learn to like help that piece of me come closer up and then eventually into the driver's seat. I hope that metaphor made sense. But yeah, that fear brain was totally in control. And I call her the cave woman brain. And she's not evil. She's there to protect us. Our egos want us to be safe and comfortable and do what's familiar because, again, our body's mission is survival, and survival depends on familiarity. And so I knew that. And I'm reading a book right now called Women Who Run with the Wolves, and it's about the wild woman archetype. I'm only like 50 pages in. It's like a fucking textbook, but it's really beautiful and powerful. And the woman takes you through all these different stories. And one of the most recent stories is basically sharing that once you hear your heart, once you get a glimpse into that part of yourself that something is not aligned, you can't look back. You'll always know it's there. It'll always be there until you learn to or allow it to come to the light. And it is scary, and it was scary. And when I decided, I didn't know for sure where I wanted to move. I kind of had ideas between Austin and Boston because I really love Boston too. But so I came out to Austin in the beginning of March before shit got real crazy with the pandemic. And it was a vibe. I just felt it. And again, it's because of the work that I've done to connect to my heart and my soul. I felt it. I felt the energy, and when I felt the energy, of course, I felt the fear, like everything, all that fear brain of like, dude, there's no way you can move in the middle of a pandemic. You're not going to make any friends. This is a big city. You're going to get eaten alive. All these fears, all these thoughts, and I had a choice to make. Do I listen to those fears? Do I let those fears chain me down, or do I call bullshit on my fears and follow my heart and trust and surrender that I'm smart enough to figure my shit out. I trust myself enough to figure my shit out. And I'm so glad that I listened to that part and I trusted myself, because guess what? I have figured my shit out. Did it look anything like I thought it was going to? Hell no. I had no idea what the year was going to have in store, but everything that's happened to me was exactly what was supposed to. And I think, just to wrap this up, it comes down to, are you strong enough and are you willing enough to call bullshit on your fears, to trust yourself enough that you will figure it out? Because you will. Maybe you don't know how. You don't need to always know how right away, but you will figure it out. And yeah, packed my shit at the end of April in a little U-Haul trailer, my cats, and drove my ass to Austin, Texas. And now I am a Texan, which is something I never would have ever imagined.
It's so crazy. One, I've never been to Austin or Boston before, but I feel like Austin was a way better fit for you. Not that my opinion matters, but it's so crazy because listening to your story, I resonate, and that story is mine because I graduated from UF and then I took a gap year, and I was anyone who was my friend or like knew me during that time, I literally did nothing. I went to work. I would go to work like 2 hours late. I would take like a 2 hour lunch break, but my boss didn't care. She was still like, oh, just put in your regular time. And she saw it in me. She's like, she even said it when she interviewed me. She's like, I really don't think you're going to stay here long. I see you in a city like New York or Atlanta, but I'll hire you. And I was like, okay. And then every day, or not every day, but so often we would have like talks, and she's like, so when are you going to move to New York? And I never told her I wanted to move to New York or anything. And I'm just like, why does this lady keep telling this to me? And I remember going to New York, and I fell in love, and I was just like, I need to move to New York. And finally, I said it after a year of me like just going to work, coming back home, and just really just doing nothing. I don't want to say I didn't do anything with my life, but really just having like a very slow, chill year. Same as you, I finally got the courage, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to move to New York. Moved out of my apartment, went and stayed with a friend at the time, and I looked for an apartment. And it's crazy because the week that she left, she went back home, is when I found the apartment, rented my car because I rented a car to move, rented a car, and I'm just like, okay, I'm leaving Saturday. And it all just happens. And also, like, aside from that, also the love part. I talked to a guy in high school, but in high school, I got so nervous, and I stopped the relationship because I remember people just kept coming up like, oh, do you guys date? Are you guys talking? I'm just like, why is everyone like in my business? I'm a very private person in that sense. We got back in touch after high school, and we were like on and off again, like not relationship wise, but just talking wise. Then this past few months, I was like, hey, like, let's try a relationship. But unfortunately, the distance wasn't there. But I think I resonate with you in the sense that it's like, I will never be able to find anyone like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I even said it to him. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to find anyone like you. Like, I just don't know. And what I think right now is, I think for me, it's the fact that I'm 26. I don't have kids. I'm not married. I'm not dating. And my mom especially, and same as you, I'm not saying this in a negative way about my mom. I love my mom, but it's the fact that by my age, she had 2 kids, she was married, she had a job, and it's like, am I behind in life? Like, are these things that I should like? It's the love part, and I think seeing people in our generation not have kids, it's me thinking like, oh my gosh, this will never happen, yada yada. But I look up to people like Tracy Ellis Ross, where she owns the fact, like, look, I'm a single woman. I own it. I still have great sex. I have a great career. What does it matter if I'm not married or I don't have kids?
Mm.
So I go back and forth where one day I'm like, I'm owning it. It's whatever. It's going to happen when it happens. I'm not going to stress out about it. But then there's other days where I'm like, oh my gosh, should I be married? Should I like, I don't want to force a relationship that's not going to equate to anything but the fact that we had kids together, because I feel like that will have certain effects on the kids. But it's just, it's a whole back and forth. And yeah, so I definitely resonate with the story that you shared. And yeah, it's a lot of self work, but
It is. And it, again, it comes back to recognizing, and here's something I shared. So somebody asked me in another podcast, like, why did you decide to start a business? Because I started my business the month I graduated from UF. And he was like, I'm so curious about that. Like, why did you start? And this shift happened when I recognized I had never asked myself what happiness meant to me, what fulfillment meant to me, what success meant to me. My whole college career at UF, I was on this conveyor belt, and I was like a little robot following what UF told me success was, which was getting kick-ass internships, learning how to have a firm ass handshake, pitch myself really well, and then get a corporate job and have job and financial security. And I drank the Kool-Aid, right? Like I interned for Amazon, I interned for the YMCA. I had a full-time job offer from both of those companies when I graduated, like, and to UF, right? UF Hall of Fame. Like, oh my God, you are success in UF's eyes. We groomed you, we prepared you. And for some people, like if you're listening to this and you want to go work for an Amazon, a Deloitte, a Google, and that is what your heart wants, fuck yes. I'm not shitting on you for wanting that, but that is not what my heart wanted. And the moment I asked myself, like, wait, whoa, what is my definition of happiness, success, fulfillment, love? And defined it for the first time and realized that the life that I was currently living did not align with my definitions, I knew some shit needed to change. And so, if those of you listening, sit down and define what success, fulfillment, happiness, love means to you. Write out what your ideal day or ideal life looks and feels like, and try to recognize the stories and fears that come up as you write your life's journey, right? Because when I wrote that, like when I wrote success out, I did not write a word about money, because at the time, money had nothing to do with whether or not I was successful in my personal life. Yet to UF, success looked like 60K a year straight out of college and
mhm,
benefits,
mhm,
all the shit. But to Danielle, in my heart, none of that mattered. And
mhm.
that was a really powerful shift, just asking myself those questions and then honoring the fuck out of the fact that that's what I wanted and that's what I deserved and was capable of going after. Was I going to disappoint people? Sure. My parents thought I was fucking crazy that I turned down $80,000 a year from Amazon or whatever it was. Were they worried? Yes. Were my friends worried? Yes. But at the end of the day, it's me looking back at me in the mirror. One of my favorite poems is The Man in the Glass. And I'm going to share a couple lines of it for you if you don't mind, because it's really powerful. And I have it memorized. If you get what you want in your struggle for self and the world makes you king or queen for a day, Go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what that man has to say. For it isn't your mother or brother or wife whose judgment upon you must pass. The one whose verdict counts most in your life is the one staring back from the glass. He's the fellow to please. Never mind all the rest, for he's with you clear until the end. And you've passed your most difficult and dangerous task if the man in the glass is your friend. And when I read that poem, like I still get chills, and I've probably recited that over 100 times now in workshops and just in conversation. It's you that you need to impress. It's you that you need to be able to hold your gaze in the mirror every day. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you connect with what the you inside really wants. That's what I got.
Like, it's so crazy because I remember I was a part of this group. And I remember everyone was like, well, what do you want out of life? And I said, I just want to be happy.
Mm,
And people kept giving me a strange stare, like, you don't want to make like a certain amount of money. You don't want like a nice big house or like something. And I'm like, no, I feel like, so one thing my mom always says to us is that no matter how much money you make or how successful you are, at the end of the day, when you die, you can't take any of that with you.
yep.
And I think if there's anything I want to take with me is I want to take the happiness knowing that like I lived my best life and I went after everything that I want. And I think that it goes back and forth with me because I think sometimes it's like I may not update my LinkedIn because it's like, well, what does it matter where I work or what I do? As long as I'm happy, that's all that should matter.
Mm,
But I know like I have those friends where it's like, oh, I have to look perfect. I have to do this. I have to do that. And it's not shitting on them. It's just, it's at the end of the day, like, what does any of that matter if at the end of the day you're not happy? Like
yeah.
for me, that is what equates to success. And going off of the UF, it was the same thing very much for me. Is you have to be in this group, you have to like be on this board, you have to like get this award or do this, and I kept like beating myself up, like, oh my gosh, I didn't get this, or oh great, I got this, or I look like an amazing person, and or I'm successful, I'm on the road to success, and what does any of that matter if you're not happy? And I've had friends who have gotten those jobs that UF or society puts on you that you should get, and a year later they quit.
Yep. Yep.
And I asked, and I'm just like, hey, what happened? Like I have a friend who I think he worked, and I don't want to shit on any of these companies. I'm not saying that it's a negative thing or anything like that. But I'll just say he works at a very well-known PR firm, two of them actually. And he got the job, was there a year, and then quit.
Mm,
And now he works for himself. And I don't think he did it to be like, oh, I want to be like my own boss or anything like that. It was really because he wasn't happy.
I believe it. It's yeah. And again, it just goes back to like, you cannot rush versions of yourself, wherever you are listening to this. You need to be this version of yourself for you to evolve into the next version of yourself. I really do believe that. And I know how badly I was trying to skip versions of myself. And it's hard, and it's frustrating. And, one of my coaches said to me once, when we come down, and this is going to be a little woo woo, so hang in with me here. When
Okay.
we our spirits, right, wherever they're floating up in the atmosphere in spirit land, they know what their purpose is. I believe this, we all have a purpose on this earth. And they all know, like imagine you and I are up there and we're like, all right, Sheba, you ready? Like, we're going to go down. We're going to go down. Like, okay, don't forget what your purpose is. All right, Danielle, don't forget what your purpose is. Like, high five, and we go down. And then when we come out as babies, and then we're conditioned, right? We get buried under these conditions, and these societal norms and beliefs that our spirit didn't choose. We were taught. And I wrote about this in my journal one day, that it's our job to dig ourselves out of the conditions and stories we were buried under. And And that's what happened when I went to UF. Shit, UF was a dream of mine forever. As soon as my older brother got into UF, I knew that's where I wanted to go. And I so feel you on the e-board. I remember how upset I was that I didn't get inducted into the Hall of Fame in the business school. I was involved in every fucking organization in the business school. My face is plastered on their wall really big. And I was sure that I was going to get it. And when I wasn't selected, I was so upset, so upset. All of this hard work, all these things. I can't tell you how few times I have thought about that wall. And the couple times when I was still living in Gainesville and I was running I run a retreat for the business school every semester. I went inside the business school and I stopped one day and I sat and I looked at the wall and I looked at all of the faces on the wall, and all the faces on the wall, incredible people, those that I know. I don't know everybody, but recognizing in that moment, again, just like this external validation, something that I no longer needed, because I validate myself. Yeah. So.
And I think it goes back to what you said earlier is don't let society define what success looks like for you,
Yeah.
or even like that attention that you may be seeking. Like, you don't need an award to tell you that you're successful. You're successful because you say you are.
Mm.
And I think like it's a hard thing because it's some people may say, well, what gives you the credibility to define yourself as successful? It's because this is what I've laid out as what I define as success, and I've done the work to get here, and so that means that I'm successful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because society equates like, oh, you have to have this job, or pretty much the things that I said previously, but you're successful because you say you are.
Yeah.
I I've taken notes on the different books and poems that you just recited for us. But do you? It seems like you do read a lot.
I love
Do
to read.
you do you have books, podcasts, or any material that you read aside from what you already suggested? But do you have anything else that you would suggest the people to read and just really dive into? And I think it's one thing to say like read this book, but I think it's another thing to say read this book, but read it with a new mind
Mm.
or come at it with a different mind. So what are some books, audiobooks, books, and podcasts that you suggest?
So I've shared with you The Untethered Soul, Women Who Run with the Wolves. Atomic Habits is just an incredible book by James Clear, just on building better habits. And I have all of my clients in my Own Your Shit program read the book because it's just really digestible. I love James Clear. One of my favorite quotes from the book is, every action you take is a vote for the person you wish to become. And if you took a hard look at the actions you've been taking, and I'll add in there the thoughts you've been thinking, what are those votes building up to? So that's a great book. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza is a great book. Really, really loved that. Really powerful, breaking, like just talking through, again, this conditioning and these thought patterns and how we think equally to our environment and how we think in the past and how it's within our power to think greater than that. What else? Oh my God, I'm trying to think like what I've read a lot of books this year. I really liked, this is an interesting book. I really liked The War of Art. I know there's another book called The Art of War, but this one is called The War of Art, and it's about resistance and leaning into resistance. I really like that book. So that's what I'll say there, because again, like books are great, but more than that, like you have to be willing to do this work on your own and ask those questions. I have to be honest, I'm not a huge podcast person. Like I'll listen to like episodes that people share with me. I will share one podcast that's actually their meditations that just have helped me so much. It's called the Live Awake podcast. And I really, really love her. I don't remember let me see if I can just pull it up real quick, what this woman's Live Awake, Sarah Blondin. I don't know if that's how you say her name, but really, really like her, just like just for meditation. Yeah, I mean, I know I've said Abraham Hicks, anything Michael Singer. He has I think it's a 3-part free course on his website. Um, Tony Robbins is a great resource, I think. Yeah, I would start there. If I have any others, I love Women Who Run with the Wolves so far. It's again very dense. I find myself having to reread like every single paragraph. It's going to take me forever to read it, but it's really, really good. Um, and, you know, more than that, I would say find yourself a community of people who are committed to this work alongside you, because that's made all the difference in my life. I'm part of a really awesome community called Rise On Inc., RISON, one word, Inc. These two guys from South Florida started it. I love them. If you guys are listening, I love you both. John and Chris, incredible people, incredible space. Um, you can join my Facebook community if you don't mind me plugging that. It's a free Facebook community right now called the Gert Gang, and we bring in guest speakers and hold space for people to do this work. But find yourself a community of people. They do exist, and the reality is they might exist outside of the current bubble you're living in, and you have to get really comfortable living outside the bubble that you're living in if you want to change. You cannot continue to think the same way, live in the same types of environments if you expect your internal world to change. And I think some of those books will help you see that and understand that. I know I also mentioned It Didn't Start With You. That's a really good book on just like generational trauma, because I've been wanting to learn more about like inner child work and how what has happened with our parents affects us. Um, yeah, that's what I got right now.
You brought up a really good point. One, community, because as cliche as it sounds, you are who you surround yourself with.
Yep.
And I know we go through life and we like go through like the cycle of different friendships and different things like that. And I think when I look back, there's no friend that I have like any bad blood with. I think that the person that I'm transcending to, or the person that I am like meant to be, certain friends just can't go on that journey with you. And I'm realizing that the community that I'm building around myself, they make me want to go harder and do the work and just like learn more. They share with me resources that help them to get to where they are. Their mindset is different. There's just so many different things. It definitely affects like who you have around you in your community. And community is important, but I do want to also stress that having that time alone to do the work is just as important. It's just the community will help you find like maybe resources that can help you in that journey.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you, how do you balance? I know right now we are still in this new world of, okay, COVID still exists. So certain things are on pause, like travel. How do you balance your business, travel, if you are doing like, light traveling, maybe from Austin to Dallas or different things like that? But how do you balance your business, travel, and maintaining your personal life?
Ooh. So I've kind of strayed away from the word balance. And the reason I've strayed away from that word in my own life is because like what does that mean? It changes every day. So I call it a dance. It's my dance with these parts of myself, and it's a daily practice. I think checking in with myself, there's a couple powerful questions I've started to ask myself pretty regularly, which has helped me just come back to presence, like come back to what I'm feeling and thinking in the moment. So, first of all, asking my body and my heart, like, heart, how are you feeling today? What do you need? Body, how are you feeling today? And what do you need? And just like literally, like, I swear I talk to myself like that, like, hey, Danielle, good morning. What do you need? How are you feeling today? And just taking those very intentional moments to check in with where I'm at. I'm not the greatest at this, but I'm learning the importance of energy management because I used to be such a to do list person. And I still get very caught in that, wanting to get everything on my to do list done. But if my energy is not aligned with the work that I'm doing, I'm not going to do very good work. And I'll tell you another thing that's become very powerful. I used to be very quick to give people responses. Like even when you reach out to me about the podcast, um, I think instantaneously I wanted to respond yes. But what I'm trying, and I don't do this well every time, but what I'm trying to get better at doing is giving myself time to think about my response. Like I knew I wanted to do your podcast, but let me take some moments to actually think about, when does this realistically fit into my schedule in a way that will feel good for me? Like I know we were trying to do it last Friday, but I knew that I was going to be with my family, and like I could have made it work, but I was going to honor my energy. And I decided to just say to you, listen, I'm going to be with my family. I would rather do this when I'm home, when I'm settled, when I know that I can like really carve out this time and be present with you. And, honoring that, I think here's one that I'm practicing. And this goes back to like listening to my intuition. If it's not a fuck yes, it is a no. And I don't do this well every time. I'm learning, but like ask yourself, what does fuck yes feel like in your mind, in your heart, and in your body? For me, it comes out of my mouth immediately. My body usually feels really calm yet excited at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not a fuck yes, and I might have to sit on it for a couple days and that's fine. But if it's not a fuck yes, it's a no. And again, discipline, because the fears come up of like, oh, am I disappointing people? Or, oh, am I missing out on this opportunity? But I promise the only opportunity you are missing out on is building trust with yourself every time you say yes to something that is not a fuck yes and is actually a no. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I know it really comes back down to presence and connection with my body. That's how I find that dance. That's how I know that balance. And it changes every day. Like I've actually traveled quite a bit during COVID for business reasons and for personal reasons. I had to go back to Colorado for a couple of family emergencies. And um, it was so important for me to check in with my body and my energy during that time.
No, and I definitely agree with you with, if it's not a fuck yes and it's a no, because I think for me, that's where I go to someone else and say, like, hey, should I do this opportunity? When I already know in myself that I don't want to do it, it's just looking for that validation of like, do you think like agree with me so I can like validate that my feelings are correct?
Yeah. And I think
And
even what
go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry, even what you just said, like even the urge for you to want to reach out to other people might be a good sign for some people to realize like, ooh, okay, maybe something's not in alignment here.
No, and that's correct. And that's where I've stopped bringing in people to help me make decisions about my life.
Mm,
It's my life, so it's like, why should this person be able to help me decide my life when at the end of the day I'm the one who's going to be living it and having to deal with the different
yep.
things.
Yep.
So yeah, what you said is so valid. And I was actually kind of surprised when you said yes to the Friday. I was like, really? Isn't she still going to possibly be with family? And I was actually happy that you did change it. Although I wasn't with family, it was still like the fact of, yeah, like enjoy your family time. So don't even worry. Like I think one thing that I'm trying to do is the same as you in a sense, is be mindful of like my energies, and like you said with the whole like balance versus dance, it's some days I'm not in it as much as I am other days.
Mm,
And if I'm not going to do it all the way, then why do it at all?
yep.
So I think like let me do it on a day when I'm like most like really into it. If there is a deadline, making sure that I'm doing other things that will help me get my energy to where it needs to be. But just going with the flow of my body, and like you said, listening to my body. I don't know if you still do this, but I do want to share. I remember you posting on Instagram, and I think you may have done a live around it. Is I think every month you said you would write a letter to yourself, or maybe you did it like every year, and you would say like, "Oh, did Danielle, like you encompass everything you need to be successful." I think you did something like that. And I do want to share that I actually started to do something similar, because I think it's us validating ourselves and giving ourselves, I don't want to say permission, but I think like just confirming to ourselves like, yes, you're phenomenal, you have everything you need to like do everything you want to do and to become that next level self.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of letters. I write letters to myself. I write letters to my ego, my fears. I write letters to money. Personifying these different parts of myself has become one of my favorite tools for connecting. And also, like, what that does when you personify, like, let's say your inner child. If I know that I'm feeling like super needy, which, hi, is not a bad thing. Okay. Just want to put that out there. If you're feeling needy, there's a reason. Um, I'll write a letter to my inner child and I'll be like, talk to me, like, what's going on? Let's have a conversation. And personifying it like that has given me the ability to separate myself and look at it from the lens of the observer. And what I mean by that is, and I give this metaphor, I a lot in my in with my clients of like, imagine you went to the ballet, you went to the theater, and there is a huge difference, I think, and I think most people would agree. There's a very big difference between sitting in either the front row or being part of the show versus sitting in the balcony. If you are sitting in the front row or you're on stage, you're part of this dance and the performance, and you're caught up in all of these moving pieces, and it's hard to see the big picture. But if I'm sitting in the balcony, I can see the whole stage. I can see the flow of the show in a different way than I would be able to if I was on stage. And that is what personifying the parts of myself allows me to do. It allows me to zoom out. It allows me to sit in the balcony and just watch what's happening below with curiosity. I'm not a part of it. I still see my anger or my inner child or my jealousy or trigger or whatever it is, my fears of moving to Austin. I see them, but I am not them. I am watching them, and it allows me to like be the scientist of my own life. And so anyway, without going too far down a rabbit hole, because I know that's what I like to do, writing letters to myself has been so powerful. I remember writing this letter right before I left Gainesville because I was scared shitless of what I was doing and the choice I was going to make, and just kind of wrote this letter of like, you've got this, because at the end of the day, you are always home because you are always with you. Home is not a place. Home is not a person outside of you. Home is within you. And if you can remember that and you can honor that and you can build that self trust that you are home, then no matter where you are and no matter what happens, we're going to be fine. So I love that you brought that up. It's one of my favorite things to do. I have all my clients write letters to themselves throughout the program. And has become a really big tool for me with my clients when they're experiencing something they can't, maybe they're very involved in. So like, it's like that quote, like, you can't solve a problem with the same mentality as where it started. I don't know, some shit like that. I always encourage them to, all right, go write a letter. Go write a letter to your mom who pissed you off, to your boyfriend, to yourself, to the inner critic who's loud as fuck right now. Like, go write the letter. It gives you time to process. I found it to be super, super powerful.
No, and don't worry about like if you feel like you're going off. I don't think you are. I think you're very much in your element.
Yes.
You are where you are saying you oh my God, sorry. You're just like you have given me like you filled up my cup today, basically.
Yeah.
Um and you're oh my gosh, you're overflowing with so much knowledge and just so much confidence, and don't apologize because you are saying what needs to be said. So I just want to put that out there. Um Going a little bit on the podcast. So this podcast is called Pour Into My Cup. You have definitely dropped so much knowledge of how you maintain like your cup and different things. But I do like to ask this question: on days where your cup isn't like on days where your cup is half full, how do you maintain on keeping it like full and getting to like that full self?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it comes back to like asking myself, what do I need in the moment? What worked for me yesterday might not work for me today. And I'm okay with that now. I always used to think like, oh, I have to work out every day. That's how I stay happy. But if I wake up today with low energy, I put my hand on my heart and I say, hey, heart, what do you need today? hey body, what do you need today? And I listen to the answer. And, that's been really hard for me to practice, especially with my workload and my clients. But there are days that I've woken up where I know that I'm not going to show up as my best self on my coaching calls. And I will reschedule all of my coaching calls so that I can give myself a day to cater to what I need, because my body is giving me a signal that something is off and something is wrong. And if I don't listen to it, I am breaking that trust with myself. And that is the most important relationship, the most important commitment I will ever make. So it can look like a lot of different things. Sometimes it's a nap. Sometimes it's a cry. Sometimes it's better food. Sometimes it's a fucking chocolate cake. It's just what does my body tell me. And it's, I know I'm not giving you like one specific answer, and I'm not, because it's so different every time. I fill my cup back up by asking myself what I need in the moment.
No, and I think that that's what it is some days, it's like you said, like, for example, the other day it was a chocolate brownie for me. And then other days, like yesterday, it was sleep. Like I literally just wanted to sleep the whole day, and I still want to. But and I'm happy you said the part about like not feeling like you have to go to the gym every day, because I definitely had someone where if I didn't go to the gym, they would just say like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you didn't go to the gym." Like they would almost make it as if it was something negative, and I'm like, "No, I'm listening to my body. My body is not in the mindset or it doesn't have the energy to execute and do things right, because I know for me, when I was looking for a personal trainer, it was because I wanted to make sure I was doing form and certain things right, and I wasn't going to injure myself.
Sure.
And if I know that my body is not going to show up the way it needs to, and I'm just going to be very lax in my fitness routine, I'm not going to go, because I don't want to end up a few minutes into the gym, I'm at the hospital because I did an exercise wrong or something.
Yeah.
So it's very much listening to your body and yourself. And like I said, and like you said, it's different things for different days, and it's listening to your body to see what is it today that you need. Let me go get it, so that way we can get you back to where you need to be.
And that, like that is the definition for me. That is the definition of true health, honoring what your body needs in the moment. And like, obviously, there is like the 80-20 rule, there is that dance. Like, we know that if my body is telling me every day to eat fried chicken or to eat fast food, like, okay, that's not going to serve me in the long run, right? There's that dance. I know that if I don't move my body, for a week in a row, like that's not going to serve my body well. But I want people to understand that health looks so different every single day. Movement doesn't just have to be the gym. It could be dance, it could be a walk, it could be a jog, it could be a bike ride, it could be meditation, stretching, breath work, yoga, whatever. There's so many different ways to show up for yourself. And the most important thing at the end of the day is that you show up for yourself in a way that feels really good for you.
And I do just want to put in there also that just because something works for someone else doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like people look to other people people look to other people because they're like, oh, well, she did this, so that's going to be the same thing that is going to help me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's learning like, okay, when I feel like this, it's because I'm not drinking enough water. Or when I feel like this, it's because I'm not getting enough sleep. Like, for example, I know that I need sleep and my body is telling it to me. And it's really just listening to your body and learning the cues. And I think as we get older, that obviously will change like with our age. But I think just learning and taking that time, like you said, owning your shit and just
Mm-hmm.
knowing yourself and not being afraid of who you end up finding out on the other side.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing to be afraid of.
Nothing. So my last question before we wrap up this episode, is there anything that I didn't ask or something that you didn't get a chance to say this is a time that you can share with everyone?
We talked about a lot of juicy stuff, Are you cool if I share a little bit about just more of the work that I do?
Of course, please do.
Yeah, I feel like that's something I would love to share, just considering everything that we've talked about. If you're listening to this episode and you are enjoying what you're hearing and you want to learn more, it is my favorite thing in the world to empower people and bring people back home to themselves and teach people how to own their shit. And there's a couple ways you can do that with me. One, please follow me on Instagram. I'm sure Sheba will post it in show notes or something like that. But I have an Own Your Shit 90-day holistic transformation program that combines fitness, nutrition. We work with a registered dietitian, and habit and mindset strategy, which looks like inner child work and shadow work and building these presence practices. There's an incredible community with this as well. There's so many facets of the program that I'm not going to go into, but it's 90 days. It's incredible. I love it. I also just launched a course called the Radical Confidence Blueprint. It's 6 weeks, so it's a shorter, more condensed version, kind of gives you a taste into this work. If you're new to this and some of the concepts that I shared with you, you're like, whoa, that sounds cool. No idea where to start. The course is a really great place to do that. And then I do have a free Facebook group. I know I referenced it earlier. It's called the Gert Gang. Would love for you to be part of it. This is a great way to get to know me and my community. There's free workouts and workshops and resources that we post in there. I just dropped the December. Well, I don't know when you're going to post this, but I drop a calendar at the beginning of every month, and yeah, that's a great place to start. It is free for now. It won't always be. So definitely get in it now and soak up those resources. And even if you just like want to be friends, please message me on Instagram. I like to think I'm really friendly. I try to get back to as many people as possible, and I would love to connect with you. So hit me up. That's all I got.
No, definitely. Thank you so much for plugging all that information in. You are accurate. I will definitely put all of this in the show notes. And I will say, guys, it's not because we know each other, but Danielle is a very, like, definitely approachable person. So don't feel afraid. I think be transparent, because I think anyone who's listening, I hope that they can feel the very transparent conversation that we had. But I do want to say that I think be transparent with your acts, whatever it is. So
Yeah.
yeah. So with that, I thank you so much for being a part of this podcast episode. This was not what I thought it was going to be. It is so much better. I literally threw my questions away because, well,
So
so thank you so much, and I'm happy we finally were able to connect and do this.
me too. Thank you so much for having me, and everybody listening. Thank you so much. I hope this was valuable. And yeah, thank you so much, Sheba. This was great.
Can't wait until the next episode to get your cup filled? Follow us on our social media platforms for daily inspiration at Pour Into My Cup. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast to stay updated when new episodes are released. Leave a review and pour into someone else's cup by sharing the podcast. And I have to ask, is your cup half empty or half full? Peace, love, happiness. Rashiba signing off.